Mr. President, dear friends, good morning. Welcome to the 69th General Conference of the IAEA. First of all, Peter, congratulations to you in assuming this important office at a time of difficulty, and thank you, Ambassador Ham, for having done so brilliantly over the past year. Thank you also, my dear colleagues, Gara, for transmitting the message from the Secretary General, my dear friend Gerd, Rob, for taking time, coming downstairs, and sharing this important moment for all of us. As it was said and recalled by the message of the Secretary General, at difficult, troubled times. And we just heard some of the interventions here reflecting how deeply divided our world is at the present moment. But still, we have a common task to accomplish. And at times like this, of deep divide, of use of force, of increasing tensions, for us at international organizations, there are two choices: continue business as usual or meet the challenge. And let me explain, or try to explain, what we are trying to do here at the IAEA. And let me start at the sharp end of this. The logic of the work of checking nuclear material throughout the world lies on the fundamental premise that when the IAEA can do that, doubts, uncertainty, fears are not there. And when that ability is compromised or is limited, or we cannot do what we are supposed to do, then international peace and security are indeed at risk. And we have seen this throughout history in particular, but not only in the Middle East, and dramatically last June in Iran, when its nuclear facilities were attacked. So in front of this, we have been working to restore this confidence and to try to continue our work in spite of all these difficulties. And I think we all know what was achieved in Cairo, and thanks Egypt again for providing not only a venue, but a spirit, a support for what we had to do. And together with His Excellency Dr. Arakci, we signed an agreement indicating, summarizing the technical measures, the practical steps that we need to do to resume this indispensable work in Iran. Now it's up to us together, Iran and us, to implement it and to restore the confidence and to move forward. The same or similar things happened in Syria a few years ago. And this year, I had a historic meeting with President al-Shara, and we decided to work together, to turn definitely this page and to clarify what happened in the past so that Syria can move forward in its full integration to peace, stability, prosperity, and its connection with the international community. All of these are challenges that we are trying to meet in accomplishing the mission that has been entrusted to us. But this is not all. It has been mentioned, and rightly so, that apart from these situations, the nuclear non-proliferation regime writ large, this contract we've entered into by saying that we want all the benefits from atomic energy and technologies, but we will not seek the development of nuclear weapons. This regime, which, with its limitations, granted, has been one of the pillars of international peace and security in a world full of uncertainty, as it was said, and as we live every day. And this is at risk, and not only in places where attempts could have been made or are made to get nuclear weapons, but also in places and in countries that, so far, are in good standing with their nuclear non-proliferation obligations. And we see, for example, that many, and in many places, there's an open debate about the possibility of having nuclear weapons. And some are asking themselves, well, why not? Maybe the world has changed or is changing in such a way that we might need nuclear weapons. We need, of course, to avoid this from happening. Imagine for a second, in the current circumstances and tensions that we are living, if we had a world where instead of the ones that have nuclear weapons now, we would have 20, 25 countries having nuclear weapons. This is something we need to avoid together. Yes, tensions have led to the return of armed conflict in Europe, and again, the IAEA had to meet the challenge. Almost exactly 3 years ago, 3 years and a few days ago, I personally led a group of courageous IAEA experts, and we crossed the front lines of a war under fire and established a presence, a permanent presence that has, at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, that has completed more than 200 missions, and we are there permanently trying to help avoid a nuclear accident that would add itself to the misery of war that we are having there. And this is a contribution that must continue and that requires your support, in spite of the differences that we may have. And the same has applied to situations like the situation in Japan with the discharge, the controlled discharge of the water that had been used to cool the Fukushima nuclear reactors, that led to political, commercial tensions in that part of the world. And thanks to the intervention of the IAEA and the joint work of all those together, we put in place a unique mechanism of transparency where the affected countries and countries around it that have concerns about what may be happening there are jointly working under the aegis of the IAEA. Dear friends, international peace and security are increasingly interconnected with other aspects where we also have an important work to do in the area, of course, of energy. Debates like energy security have appeared, and today there is a shared conviction from countries all over the world, using nuclear energy or not, that nuclear energy is part of the solution to the world challenges in terms of clean energy, in terms of global warming, however you may wish to define that. But until a few years ago, we were still finding ideological blockage to this. We were still finding limitations for countries to benefit from nuclear energy. And the IAEA has been working in 3 different ways to try to help those who are confirmed users of nuclear energy and also those who want it. One is, of course, as our statute itself says, promote the peaceful uses of nuclear energy. But this, of course, has to be declined into concrete things that you do to get countries to do that. Confirmed countries and vendors, exporters of nuclear technology, of course, do not need it. But out of our, today, 181, and welcome, Maldives, member states, I can assure you that the vast majority that need nuclear energy need support. And support means having the elements there to be able to host nuclear power plants, a workforce that is up to the task, and a regulatory scheme that will allow this activity to take place in a safe and secure way. And so this is the second one. We promote the technology, we put countries up to speed, so to speak, and we bring regulators to the table. this is very important. We have started a series of SMR, you know, the small modular reactors, which are these reactors that are smaller, modular, as the name says, and more economical than the big nuclear reactors that you know, which are a very interesting, very attractive possibility for many developing countries that are requesting that. So we are trying to do that. We have SMR schools that we have organized in Thailand, for Southeast Asia, in Kenya, for Africa, in Argentina, for 12 countries in Latin America and in the Caribbean. And there are more to come. The regulators' work, of course, we have created platforms like the Nuclear Harmonization and Standardization Initiative, which try to bring together regulators, the private sector for the first time, all under the same roof, so we all understand what the other needs, and we can adjust our practices. We are, of course, and it is obvious that for the IAEA, safety will be always a priority. But regulation, as everything else, must adapt and be up to the challenge, and we are working together with them. And lastly, because the big question is always who pays, and what is the financing situation when it comes to nuclear energy in the world. And one of the big stumbling blocks that we had in the past was the inability of countries, and in particular developing countries, to have international institutions financing them. There were, believe it or not, prohibitions from developing banks to finance anything that had the word nuclear on it. How absurd. No scientific basis for this. Luckily, we are turning that page also, and in Paris a couple of months ago, President Ajay Banga and myself, the IAEA and the World Bank signed an agreement, and of course, once the tone has been set by the World Bank, other development banks now are coming to us, which is going to make it possible for many developing countries to also benefit from nuclear energy. So important that we have that. Our common planet is our common house. And the IAEA is also working, offering the technology, the nuclear science and application arm to do good, apart from the energy side, which I try to describe succinctly now. Starting, for example, with nuclear medicine, with radiotherapy, with oncology, where we still have countries. Just a couple of months ago, I was in a country where I delivered the first mammographer. Can you believe it? A country that does not have a simple mammographer. This is obscene, but it is happening. It is happening. This is why we established Rays of Hope. And Rays of Hope, since its creation, a bit more than 2 years ago, now it's active in many countries. And let me tell you, cancer hospitals are being built. Technology is being transferred. The situation is changing, and lives are being saved thanks to you, thanks to the support and the fact that you believe that Rays of Hope was not just a photo opportunity or a hollow declaration on a piece of paper. And the same happened when it comes to Atoms for Food, where hand in hand with FAO, we are providing the technology, the science to develop hardier crops that we need because the planet is warmer, because there's no water, and we need crops that can sustain that. We are providing the technology that allows countries in an environmentally friendlier way to stop pests by sterilizing insects. Zika, dengue, chikungunya, all these things are coming back, and we are trying to stop them through our efforts in this regard. The planet is being increasingly polluted, and plastic pollution is one of the worst manifestations of that. Through new tech plastics, we are trying to give countries a possibility not only to identify this pollution, but also through irradiation to turn plastic into useful material to work, construction material, for example. And I could go on citing these examples of how the IAEA is providing these technologies to countries in their efforts to overcome all these problems that we are having. Water. Water is obviously the resource par excellence that we all need. And tomorrow, the scientific forum that we are having is going to be devoted to atoms for water. Through isotopic hydrology, my friends, we are able to decide whether we can use water, why our aquifers are going down, what is happening with glaciers, what is happening with rivers, with the oceans, with ocean acidification. All of that also through this general conference that we are having. And of course, there is the future. And when it comes to the future, we need to look at the new technologies. What is the next page? Where are we heading? And this is why in December, please join us for the first international conference on AI and nuclear. Artificial intelligence and machine learning are everywhere. Our lives depends on our smartphones. Every single activity that we have, including in the real economy, depend on artificial intelligence, which is voracious in terms of the energy they demand. And this is why hardly a week passes without a high-tech company signing an agreement with a nuclear vendor to get this energy that they so badly need. But of course, this had to be done in a safe, in a secure, and with the appropriate regulation. And where is the place, which is the place where this can be discussed? Of course, here. And this is why we are going to have this discussion. Let me also mention fusion. Fusion, the old quip going that fusion is the energy of the future, that will always be the energy of the future. Not anymore. Not anymore. And I bet that we all here in this room are going to be alive to see the first pulses of electricity coming from a commercial fusion installation in just a few years. So this is why we are working hard on fusion, and in Chengdu, in China, in a few weeks we are going to have the second meeting of the World Fusion Energy Group. Finally, the instrument. The instrument is us, is the Secretariat, is you as member states. We are trying to do more with less, operating on zero growth budgets already for a long time, with a diverse workforce, which when I started only counted 28% of women. Today it's 51% of women in just 5 years. So there are some who talk about this, and there are others who do really things about this. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you very much for still believing, as the President was saying, that in spite of all these doubts, there are many, many things that still unite us. Thank you very much.